Shocking truth, can heaven's souls see us? The Bible reveals a dark secret we never knew. In the dim light of an old church, shadows twisted and danced, whispering untold secrets that awaited discovery. The air buzzed with electric tension, and you could almost feel the weight of unknown souls lingering beyond the veil. As if they were watching, waiting for someone brave enough to unveil truths hidden in the ancient texts. What if the souls in heaven weren't as distant as we believed? What if they hovered just beyond our sight? This wasn't just any revelation, it sent chills racing down spines and tightened throats everywhere. It was a dark truth, one that pulled back the curtain on life and death itself. Inside this sacred space, an elderly man, gray-haired and wise, stood before the cracked altar, poring over the oldest Bible known to mankind, pages yellowed with time. The words breathed life, speaking of eternity, angels, and a vision of the afterlife that blurred the lines between existence and oblivion. Each verse echoed realities that might just be too shocking to handle. Could heaven's inhabitants truly see us? Were they judging our every move? He paused, fingers trembling over the fragile paper, a lump forming in his throat. The gravity of it all sank deeper. Did they know our darkest fears and regrets? Outside, the world buzzed along, completely unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding inside. The wind howled like a grieving ghost, swirling leaves that raised murmurs across the town. People went about their daily lives, blissfully ignorant of the reality that death might be just a doorway away, full of watching eyes from above. Small-town folk oblivious to the truth that loomed like a cloud above. Lip service was paid to faith, yet no one dared to confront the messy truth hiding in plain sight. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the church, the air grew thick with silence. His heart raced, pounding in his chest like a drum. The questions flooded in. What if he was destined to uncover the awful truth? Could he handle the weight of their gaze upon him? As he turned the last pages of the Bible, a cold shiver ran down his spine, for there it was, the revelation that challenged everything. In the shadow of the altar, the candle flames flickered violently, and then, a sudden knock resonated from the heavy wooden door behind him, echoing through the hollow expanse like a ghostly whisper. Who dared disturb this sacred moment? The tension grew, the silence screamed, and the truth hung just out of reach. What was waiting beyond that door? Could it be a voice from heaven? Or a question that would shake the very foundation of faith itself? The knock came again, louder this time, its urgency slicing through the church's heavy atmosphere. The elderly man's heart skipped as he felt the pulse of fear resonate deeply within him. Anyone coming here, at this hour, had to be extraordinary or terrifying. He steadied his shaking hands and approached the door, each step echoing like thundering footsteps of the damned. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows, and the air around him shimmered, almost alive. What awaited him? The thought of a soul from heaven beckoning him sent chills down his spine. Or perhaps it was a messenger carrying damning truths, the kind that could tear apart the fabric of belief and faith. That he placed a trembling hand on the cool, wooden door and paused. His breath hitched. What if this was at the moment where he would learn more about the afterlife than he bargained for? Memories of lost loved ones flooded his mind, their laughter, their tears, their whispered promises carried off by the wind. What if they were on the other side? What if they were watching him now? The weight of that possibility felt crushing. Who is there? He called out, voice shaking with a mix of fear and resolve. Silence enveloped him again, choking and thick. Then, came the faintest whisper, as if carried on the wavering breeze. Help us. His heart raced faster, pounding harder still. Ghostly voices. Or maybe his own mind unraveling under the pressure of such heavy truths. He fought the urge to pull away, to run. Instead, with determined resolve, he flung open the door. What stood before him was a young woman, ethereal in appearance, bathed in soft, otherworldly light. Her eyes sparkled with sorrow, an ocean of heartbreak swirling deep within their depths. She was beautiful and yet harrowing, a living paradox. "Please," she whispered again, and the urgency in her tone made the very walls tremble. "You must listen. They see you. They know you." The man's throat tightened. Who? Who knows? The souls, she hesitated, her voice trembling. "They are trapped between worlds, and they see your pain. They want to help, but you need to understand the cost." Panic clawed at his chest. The flickering candlelight cast her face in sharp contrasts, and the shadows around them seemed to lean in, hungry for revelation. "Cost?" he stammered, fear flooding his veins. "What do you mean?" Before she could respond, a chilling gust swept through the open door, extinguishing every candle in the church. Darkness engulfed them, and he could feel the sudden, disembodied weight of countless eyes upon him, pinning him in place. Then, from the abyss, voices began to rise, 100 whispers layered in desperation. "Release us. Listen to our truth. We see you. We know you." He stumbled back, lost in the suffocating void of fear and uncertainty. The words swirled in his head, tugging at every buried regret, every sin that weighed heavy on his soul. The woman's silhouette flickered, her voice cutting through the din. "You must choose. Will you open the door?" The tension twisted tighter than a noose around his neck. He blinked into the dark, where unseen spirits writhed, pleading for deliverance. But could he afford to unearth their truth? What lay waiting on the other side of that decision? The answer felt like a thunderclap that could tear his very being apart. As he stood on the precipice of choice, time froze in that church of shadows, every moment sizzled with potential. Would he emerge unscathed or bound by the souls of the forgotten? Then, unexpectedly, the weight of a new knock reverberated through the church, more insistent this time. A different power beckoned from outside. Was it salvation or yet another trap? Who else was waiting to disturb his fate? The knock came again, a powerful thud that resonated through the church. The man's heart raced, merging the urgency with the dread that filled the silence. It felt like the very walls of the sanctuary were shivering in anticipation. He glanced nervously at the ethereal woman standing before him, her eyes wide with fear and expectation. "Who is it?" he whispered, almost too afraid to vocalize the question. The woman opened her mouth, but the words never came as another ferocious knock echoed again, louder than before, shaking the very foundation under his feet. He couldn't take it anymore. An overpowering instinct propelled him toward the door. With one swift motion, he swung it open. The gust of night air rushed into the church, bringing with it a chaotic mix of whispers and shouts from outside. Moonlight illuminated a crowd gathered at the door, their faces distorted with desperation. The flickering shadows danced wildly across their features, revealing anguish, fear, and something darker. "Please. You have to help us," a voice cried, trembling with urgency, breaking through the chaos. It was familiar yet distorted. It struck a chord deep within him. He squinted into the darkness, scanning the faces. He recognized them. They were the lost souls he had mourned. Friends, family, loved ones, all clinging to an unholy tether between this world and the next. "Is it really you?" he gasped, unable to grasp the reality before him. The woman at his side lowered her gaze, a pained expression washing over her face. "They are trapped," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Their pain is real. You must listen. Listen." He could hardly breathe, the weight of their presence clawing at his chest. "Help you how?" "Release us." They cried in unison, their voices rising into a crescendo of fear and longing. "We see the truth. The cost must be paid." He wanted to turn away, to shut the door and leave this nightmare behind, but their yearning eyes held him fast. Each face was etched with grief, each pleading expression forcing him to confront his own guilt. "Release you," he said, choking on the words. "What do you want from me?" Suddenly, the woman beside him stepped forward, her slender hand outstretched, palm open. "You must be willing to accept the truth. The price for knowledge is great. Do not turn away now, you will only harbor regret." His heart thundered in his ears as time twisted and turned, the choice spiraling in front of him like a dark vortex. The pleas grew louder, weaving an intricate tapestry of his past. How many times had he brushed away the memories of those he lost to avoid the pain? Was this really a chance to reclaim the souls of the departed? In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows seemed to pulse, squeezing closer around him, demanding either action or submission. He felt the pull of the woman's gaze, her sorrow was palpable. Then, another voice broke through the maelstrom. An authoritative figure emerged from the crowd, stepping into the moonlight. "Stop!" he commanded. The stranger's face bore a slight resemblance to someone he once adored, a cousin lost to fate. "This is not how it must end." His stomach twisted in knots. The urgency of their plight weighed heavier than a mountain, yet the man felt as though he were standing at the edge of a yawning chasm. Which path would he choose? With every second stretching into infinity, he knew he had to decide. Between illumination and ignorance, salvation and despair. What is happening? The crowd surged forward, voices layering one another in a dissonance that echoed around him. "You must make a choice." The man's heart raced, caught between world's life, death, and everything in between. Prompted by their cries, he tightened his grip on the doorframe. "Will you listen to their truth?" The woman's voice pierced through, rising above the cacophony. Just as he began to respond, the world around him dimmed, shadows swallowing the light, leaving him alone with the weight of his choice. As clarity faded, a thundering silence filled the void, and he was left to face the chilling unknown. What fate awaited him behind that threshold? And as he opened his mouth to speak, a surge of light erupted from behind him, a brilliant flash that momentarily illuminated the darkness, revealing buried secrets and unspeakable horrors. Was this the answer he sought, or a trap laid cleverly amidst the chaos? What awaited him on the other side of that blinding light, and would he dare cross into the unknown? The light consumed him, a blinding brilliance that sent shockwaves through his body. He staggered backward, instinctively shielding his eyes. But curiosity spurred him forward, pulling him into the vibrant glow, daring him to confront what lay beyond. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything shifted. He found himself in a realm that felt both eerily familiar and terrifyingly foreign. Mist hung in the air, swirling around him like angry whispers. Shadows danced close, but the glow cast long fingers of warm light, illuminating the faces of the wandering souls with haunting clarity. "Help us!" Their voices reverberated, echoing through the empty space. Fear tightened within him, knotted like an unyielding cable in his stomach. He looked at the crowd, those he once lost, now begging with eyes wide open, filled with a desperate yearning. "Is this a dream?" he muttered, grappling with the terrifying reality. "No dream," came the voice of the woman, her form radiating an ethereal glow, sharp against the gloom. "This is the truth you refuse to accept. This is the price." As the light began to fade, shapes formed around him, a symphony of memories replaying in vivid detail. He saw his cousin's face, radiant and smiling, but soon it twisted to one of despair. "Why did you let me go?" she cried, her voice breaking. "You could have saved me." The weight of horror pressed down on him like a mountain. "I tried. I tried so hard." But the echoes of the crowd were relentless. "You didn't try hard enough." They closed in, their translucent fingers grasping at him, as though seeking salvation. The air thickened with sorrow, each soul distinct yet united in a chorus of pain. "Release us!" they implored once more, their pleas forming a cascade of agony that reverberated against the walls of the ethereal realm. The woman stepped closer, her presence shimmering. "What must you pay to learn the truth?" He stumbled back as memories of his past flooded in, the moments he'd chosen to turn away, the calls he had ignored, the conversations left unfinished. He clenched his fists, fighting against the tide of grief that threatened to engulf him. There has to be another way. He shouted into the gathering darkness, a mix of despair and determination welling up inside. I can't do this. But their faces were resolute, piercing through his doubts with a laser-like focus. You must face what you fear. Only then can we be freed. Only then can you find peace. The air crackled with tension, the shadows swirling faster as the crowd shifted, their emotions amplifying like a storm gathering strength. For a brief moment, the light flickered again, revealing a glimmer of hope. A vision of the future flashed before him, a world where the souls were released, where he might find absolution. Could he truly bear the burden of their suffering, or would the weight prove too great? Please, she implored again, desperation seeping into her voice. You are stronger than you believe. Your love for us must drive you. Will you let it? As he stood at the precipice of choice, everything crescendoed into a chaotic overture: love, regret, fear, defiance all intertwined, a melodious cacophony resonating in the depths of his soul. What if I say yes? He uttered, his voice trembling, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of hope. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled violently as the shadows recoiled. Embrace the truth. They screamed, their voices merging into a single, overlapped terror. A new light glimmered, brighter than before, bursting forth like the dawn breaking against the lingering night. But at that moment, he realized too late the danger of his own heart's desire. The flicker of hope could just as easily be a fiery trap. Would he dare to step into the unknown, risking everything for the chance to free them? And behind him, the light trembled, almost waiting for him to take that first step into a revelation that could change everything. But would he be ready for the truth it promised? The air was electric, thick with anticipation. He teetered on the edge of comprehension, the light pulsing like a heartbeat, a beacon calling him to join the other side. Heart racing, he took a step forward. The cries intensified, voices merging into a desperate symphony of anguish. Please help us. The voices echoed, a tidal wave of sorrow crashing against his resolve. As he moved through the threshold, the pulse of light enveloped him completely. In an instant, the shadows evaporated, revealing a haunting landscape, a twisted reflection of his own life. Faded memories mingled with dark paths he had walked, moments he wished to forget resurfacing like uninvited ghosts. A scream shattered the stillness, a raw, piercing sound that cut through the chaos. He spun around, eyes darting to find its source. There, standing on the edge of a crumbling cliff, was a figure he recognized instantly. It was his father, eternally trapped in a loop of regret. Why did you leave me? The words dripped with pain, each syllable a dagger lodged deep in his chest. His breath hitched. I didn't mean to. I thought you'd be okay. But the evidence of his failure loomed large behind his father's form. A wave of self-recrimination crashed over him, relentless and icy. You thought. You didn't even try to hold on. His father's ghostly outline flickered, the anguish palpable. The faces of countless others lined the edge of the abyss behind his father, a sea of souls lost because he had failed to step forward in their moments of need. I was scared. He shouted into the void, desperation clawing at him. I didn't know how to save you. The voices crescendoed, filling every corner of this grim reality. You had the power, and you let us drown. Each accusation struck him like lightning. The weight of their collective grief threatened to crush him under its enormity. He dropped to his knees, hands pressed against his skull, struggling to block out the truth, a truth that felt both liberating and suffocating. No, he cried, I won't let you do this to me. Suddenly, the mist swirled once more, and the ethereal woman appeared again, her eyes bright, brimming with understanding. You can't run from the truth. You must confront your past, face it head-on. Only then will they find peace. He glanced around, now acutely aware of the faces around him, shimmering with a mixture of hope and despair. The sight bore down on him, pushing him back, almost as if the realm itself was urging him to take rapid, desperate action. I won't let you suffer because of my choices. He stood, trembling yet resolute, fueled by a newfound determination. The ground trembled again. Shadows coiled around him, wrapping tight, ready to draw him back into the pit of despair. He felt his resolve slipping, fear clawing at his insides. "Fight!" the woman urged, her voice cutting through the darkness. "You are more powerful than you know. You must stand firm against the shadows." He clenched his fists, heart pounding, the memories swirling around him as he found his voice again. "I will mend what I can. I promise." But just as he felt a flicker of strength, the shadows erupted, swirling violently, shifting, becoming a tempest that threatened to consume him whole. "Your promise means little without action," they shrieked, the cacophony drowning his thoughts. He staggered back, eyes wide. The light flickering now seemed tainted, casting long shadows of doubt over his resolve. Did he really have the strength to confront everything he feared? Would he dare to step further into the heart of the darkness? And there, on the precipice of his past, he saw not just the void ahead, but glimpses of what lay beyond, a flicker of hope buried deep under pain. But was it hope or just another illusion to torment him? Gripping onto that flicker, he reached for the light, knowing he was teetering on the brink of a revelation that could either break him or set him free. But in that moment, a cold wind swept through, whispering a chilling truth: some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. Would he be ready to face the consequences? The air thickened, almost suffocating, as he strained to keep his footing against the storm of shadow. The tempest surging around him roared, voices intertwining into a frenetic lament. Each accusation, each whisper from the lost souls, pierced his very core, unraveling the threads of his growing resolve. Just as he grasped the flicker of hope, darkness surged. He stumbled forward, arms outstretched, as if to shield himself from the onslaught. "I can change," he shouted, hoarse and ragged, desperation pouring from his lips. But the shadows laughed, a low, mocking sound drenched in sorrow. "You change nothing," they jeered, the chorus of wails echoing off the crumbling cliffs. The faces that had once been mere memories now morphed into twisted parodies of themselves, each one a reminder of his past failures. His chest tightened, his heart pounding painfully, as the visions flooded him. "No. I can't allow this." He fought to push back. "I won't let you drown me in my regrets." With every ounce of strength, he forced himself to focus on the ethereal woman. Her eyes burned bright against the abyss, a lighthouse guiding him through the storm. "What do I do? Help me," he cried, voice cracking. Before she could reply, the ground quaked beneath him, and the cliff's edge crumbled away, making the wailing figures hover precariously above the void. His father stood there, a desolate figure against the chaos, eyes pleading for the truth he had shunned for too long. "You have to let go," his father's voice, once filled with anger, now carried a deep sadness. "You've clung to this pain, but it's your past. It doesn't define you." The shadows howled in anger, their power surging as if in retaliation to his father's words. "Defy us, and you lose them all," they screamed, swirling closer, ready to overwhelm him. "Father!" he wailed, feeling the truth cut through him. Maybe he had let fear dictate his actions, had hidden behind it as a child cowering from the dark. But this moment demanded courage. Gritting his teeth, he thought of every soul standing before him. Each lost life weighed against his heart. "I won't abandon you," he roared, voice peppered with newfound conviction. "I won't let this darkness win. I choose to fight, even if it costs me everything." Suddenly, warmth spread through him, igniting a blaze of light in his core. It suffocated the shadows slowly, forcing them back like a tide receding before the oncoming dawn. But the shadows retaliated with fury, merging into one colossal shape of darkness. "Foolish mortal! Hope is a fleeting flame," it bellowed, the voice echoing like thunder. "You cannot save them all. You can't save yourself." As the nightmarish figure loomed, he felt the weight of despair crashing down, hands trembling. "You're wrong!" he yelled back, his spirit ignited. I can change. I can help them. And I will. In that moment, he cast himself into the light, eyes shut against the tempest surrounding him, daring to believe in the very thing he thought long extinguished. He was not alone. No longer would he run. But then, a horrifying crack split the air as the shadow lunged, teeth like daggers glistening in the indurate light. Will you pay the price of truth? It hissed, a dark promise lingering in the air. The ground shook violently, closing in on him. As he braced for the impact, fear gripped him one last time. What lay ahead? Would he truly unearth the power necessary to mend the souls bound by his past? The chilling shadows began to close in, and in that final moment, he wondered, had he finally summoned the courage to face his demons, or had he waded too far into the abyss to turn back? The lunging shadow bore down on him, a mass of darkness that seemed to pulse with an unsettling life of its own. Instinct shouted at him to flee, to turn and run, but there was nowhere to hide. The edge of the cliff was gone, leaving him suspended between fading echoes of anguish and this gaping maw of despair. With a surge of adrenaline, he glanced back at his father's pleading eyes, the warmth of hope still flickering within him. I choose to fight. The words ripped free from his throat, raw and primal. Was it recklessness or bravery that urged him forward? The very thought made him second-guess his resolve, but there was no turning back now. The shadows lunged again, this time with a ferocious speed, and he felt the cold bite of despair creep over him. His heart raced as he summoned every ounce of light he ignited within, every moment of connection to the souls he vowed to save surged like fire. He extended his arms, brilliant energy bursting outwards, creating a shimmering barrier. You may think your light is strong, the massive shadow rumbled, but we were born of darkness. The very air vibrated with its challenge, but as the tendrils of shadow clawed at him, he harnessed his fury, pushing back harder. Images of every soul he had failed, lost mothers, friends, broken lives swirled in his mind, each one lighting a spark of determination. With a guttural scream, the darkness collided with his barrier, a shockwave radiating outwards. He stumbled, almost losing his footing, but the warmth of the woman's gaze steadied him. You have the power. She yelled, her voice like a beacon cutting through the storm. Believe in their love for you. Believe in your own worth. The encroaching darkness hesitated, recoiling as if burned. He surged forward, pushing deeper into the light, calling out to each ghostly figure he could see. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. Not now. In that instant, columns of light exploded from within him, bursting forth like 1,000 stars. The shadows shrieked, a sound so agonized that it rattled the very earth beneath him. Pieces of the shadow fell away, revealing torment-filled faces, some angry, some pained, yet all desperate for deliverance. Lie not to yourself. The shadow thundered, its voice splitting the air. You cannot save what you cannot bear. Still, he pressed on. Light fluttered fiercely around him, creating a shelter against the gnashing teeth of despair. I can bear this. I will bear this. He cried, refusing to falter. Then, something shifted. The weight of the shadows seemed lighter, the air clearer. There was a beat, a stillness that swallowed the chaos. And in that pregnant moment of silence, he understood. The darkness fed off his fear, its tenacity a reflection of his insecurities. Let me show you the truth. He shouted into the abyss, a sense of fierce understanding dawning within him. Let me forgive myself. But even as he spoke the words, doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Was he truly ready to face the depths of his own pain? Could he embrace the shadows in such a way that they no longer held the power to define him? The shadow recoiled, sensing the shift. What do you think you found? Your light is ineffective without sacrifice. It hissed, prowling closer, only to retreat as he reeled in strength from the flickering love that bound him to every soul surrounding that chaotic void. And then, the ground beneath him cracked, fissures snaking wide. He could feel it a pull, an undeniable gravitation towards the truth that had eluded him for so long. Father, guide me. He screamed, desperate for confirmation, but there was only silence. A crunching noise echoed as the darkness reformed into grotesque shapes, circling ominously like vultures ready to devour. "Will you sacrifice your truths?" it challenged, drawing closer, blade-like tendrils reaching out to touch the heart of his determination that he faced it, the weight of unending despair combating the flickering glow of hope. Would he falter now, standing at the precipice of change? Then, from the blackness surrounding him, a chilling realization sank in. What price might truth demand, and could he truly bear the weight of his own past? Darkness swirled around him, filling the air with a suffocating dread. His heart thudded in his chest, blood rushing in his ears like a wild drum. Shadows writhed, forming into shapes both familiar and grotesque. Each silhouette brought a pang of recognition and regret, cutting deeper than he ever expected. He could feel the shadows feeding off his fear, twisting into monstrous representations of his guilt. Each tendril that curled toward him whispered accusations, dredging up memories he'd buried deep. Faces flashed before him, lost battles, broken promises, the grief of those he tried but failed to save. "You can't escape us," they taunted, their voices echoing, overlapping into a cacophony of lost souls. "Enough!" he roared, desperate to push through the pain. His arms trembled with effort, light bursting along the edges of his fingertips, flaring dangerously. "I won't let you win." His energy surged, a radiant wave crashing against the encroaching darkness. Some shadows twisted back, hissing in retaliation. But the fear was still there, gnawing at him. His resolve faltered, just for a heartbeat. What if it's all true? He thought, the doubt creeping in like a thief in the night. What if I am unworthy? The larger shadow loomed closer, its voice a slithering whisper that curled around him like chains. "To save your lost, you must pay the price. Are you willing?" A shiver ran down his spine. Would he have to sacrifice something dear to him? A piece of himself? The thought of surrendering to the darkness shook him to his core. But then, the memory of his father's warm smile flashed before him, a reminder of everything he fought for and loved. "No, I won't do this," he muttered through clenched teeth. "There's something more than this." Suddenly, the ground cracked wider, snaking fissures brimming with a swirling inky abyss. He felt the gravitational pull, drawing him dangerously toward the void. Panic surged, it felt like everything within him was unraveling. "Hold on!" he shouted, clenching his fists, feeling the energy inside him surge anew. "Remember who you are." The woman's voice broke through the chaos, resounding through his mind. "You are not just what you've done. You are also what you can become." The shadows slowed just for a fraction of a second, as if perplexed by the strength of his determination. In that small pause, he seized his chance. "I choose to break free from the lies," he proclaimed. Light poured from within him, blasting outward like a solar flare, filling the space with brilliant heat. Waves of light cracked through the shadows, scattering them, tearing at their foundation. The fissures trembled and shuddered under his surge. But then, the ground beneath him began to crumble. It was like standing on the edge of a calamitous cliff. He felt unsteady, teetering on the brink of everything he'd ever known. "Stay strong," he urged himself, drawing on every ounce of hope buried within. In that moment of clarity, he understood. The darkest shadows weren't just outside, they were reflections of every part of him that felt unworthy. Could he not only fight the darkness outside but also embrace the light within? If he could conquer these shadows, he could rise from the ashes. But just as he gained ground, the massive shadow retrieved and bared its fangs, stretching out its claws in a final, desperate lunge towards him. He gasped as everything around him began to whirl, spiraling into chaos once more. Could he find the strength to finish this? Would he truly confront every part of himself? As the darkness enveloped him again, a thunderous roar pierced the air, a sound that felt eerily familiar. Then, in an instant, all went silent. What awaited him in that suffocating silence? The silence wrapped around him like a thick fog, smothering every thought, every ounce of defiance he'd mustered. It was profound, unsettling. His breath came out in shaky gasps as he blinked into the nothingness, searching for any hint of what lay ahead. Then, a heartbeat. It echoed like a pulse beneath the silence, thrumming in tandem with the shadowy darkness. Suddenly, figures began to materialize, slowly stepping out from the void. Their faces were obscured, shrouded in mist, but beneath the haze, he could see the glimmers of their eyes filled with sorrow, longing, and something else, recognition. "Who are you?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper, swallowed by the overwhelming stillness. "We are the remnants," one of the shadows spoke, its voice low and resonant, wrapping around him like a chain. "We are those you could not save. We watch, we wait." Dread pooled in his stomach. No, I did everything I could. You know that." His mind raced as the memories crashed over him like a tidal wave, faces, names, the moments he wished he could change. "Everything you could?" The voice echoed, dripping with sadness. "But at what cost? You fought hard, but you were still blind to the truths lurking within." The truth, the word sank into him, an anchor of despair. He felt as if he were crumbling beneath its weight. "I had to try," he shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. "What else was there? What more could I have done?" In response, the shadows moved closer, drifting like smoke, encircling him, weaving through his thoughts. "You cannot escape the consequences of your choices," another voice said, a soft yet penetrating whisper. "What you think is fighting is merely evasion." "No!" he yelled, taking a step back, but the shadows pressed forward, their forms shifting, becoming sharper, revealing features of those he had lost. Their eyes were wide, filled with various emotions: anger, sorrow, and the heavy weight of betrayal. "Do you see?" they cried, a chorus of despair. "We can never break free without acknowledging the truth." "What truth?" His heart raced as shards of confusion flared through him. Was he truly responsible for their suffering? He wanted to deny it, to push the accusations away, yet something deep inside felt undeniable, as if every regret was a knife digging deeper. "Face us." A voice boomed above all others, commanding and fierce. "You cannot heal what you refuse to confront. You think the battle lies outside, but it rages within." The darkness stitched itself tighter around him, threatening to pull him under. He felt it engulf him, spilling doubt and torment like pouring rain. "Please, I just want to save them," he pleaded, feeling their eyes piercing through him. "Can you save yourself?" They replied in unison, their voices rising to a chilling crescendo. He staggered back, air knocked from his lungs as a weight crashed on his chest. "Fall to heal or rise to fight," they whispered, and in that moment, the ground shook violently beneath his feet. Then he saw it, a shimmering light breaking through the nightmare, a singular radiant path cutting through the suffocating shadows. Was this the hope he had been searching for? Just beyond it, the faces of those he loved shone with anticipation, urging him to step forward, but behind him, the darkness stirred, a feral growl rumbling through the air. "Choose. Will you step into the light or remain in the darkness, a prisoner of your own making?" Caught between despair and hope, he inhaled sharply, eyes darting back to the light and then to the swirling abyss, feeling the cold grasp of the shadows tugging at him. Which path would he take, towards the light or further into the void? The weight of the moment loomed heavy. His heart raced as he wrestled with the choice, teetering on the precipice of everything he had fought for. What would happen if he chose wrong? As he stood teetering on the edge between light and dark, the air pulsed with energy, a tangible force urging him forward. Every soul he had lost danced in his mind, their faces flickering in the turbulent storm of memory. Pain gnawed at him, yet within that pain blossomed an undeniable truth: he held the power to change everything. To reclaim the light and banish the shadows that tortured him and those he loved. "Choose," the voices echoed, their urgency crashing upon him like waves. The mist cleared momentarily, revealing the radiant path ahead. Each step felt weighted, tangible. A river of warmth surged through him, igniting courage deep within his heart. He reached toward the light, hope pouring through him like a flood. I will step into the light, he cried, his voice unwavering. The shadows recoiled, their screams merging into a cacophony of rage. You won't escape us, they wailed, the darkness swirling like a tempest, pulling him back, clawing at his resolve. But with renewed determination, he forced himself forward. He could see the faces of those he loved, their expressions not filled with accusation but rather with an intense yearning for him to find strength. They needed him to break the cycle. Fingers outstretched, he dashed toward the shimmering brightness breaking through the chaos. Light engulfed him like a warm embrace. Memories poured into him, and he felt their love wash over every scar, every wound. I see you, he cried, as tears streamed down his cheeks. I see each of you, and I choose to honor you. As he spoke those words, a shockwave erupted. The darkness shrieked, unraveling before him like a paper blown away by the wind. The shadows twisted and spiraled away in retreat as the light expanded, engulfing the chaos, illuminating the grief and sorrow that had anchored him for too long. He felt a sense of release flood through him, lifting layers of guilt and remorse as though stepping out of a tunnel into the bright day. Together we can heal. He shouted, calling upon the spirits trapped in despair, summoning their strength to break free. And one by one, their forms brightened with the same warmth of recognition. Each flickering soul found its own resonance, joining him in a vibrant dance of light. Thank you, a whisper floated from the crowd he had once lost, and he could feel the longing in their voices transform into gratitude. The ethereal woman stepped forward, her face glowing. You've discovered the truth, found the courage to embrace not only your light but that of the souls you love. She smiled, beaming with pride. You are free now, and they are free too. Suddenly, the space around them began to shift. The dark void that once loomed was now transformed into a radiant landscape of ethereal beauty, a tapestry woven from reclaimed memories. Friends and family converged, their faces filled with joy and love, the sense of closure palpable as the chains of the past crumbled like ancient ruins. I'll never forget, he vowed, swallowing the lump forming in his throat. You all have to know how much you mean to me. As the warmth washed over him, he felt a final burst of light surge forth, illuminating every corner of his heart. And then, just like that, something shifted. A sense of serene acceptance filled the air. The whispers that once plagued him turned into soft lullabies, each note laced with understanding. We're at peace now, one voice chimed softly. And so are you. With a final, radiant burst, the landscape around him began to dissolve into a brilliant blaze, beckoning him back. The dark night sky burst with stars, the kind that twinkled with familiarity, igniting his own heart's sky. And standing there, finally anchored, he felt himself grounded in the truth of both loss and love. As the vibrant light whisked him away, he carried their essence within him, an unbreakable bond woven into his spirit. Back in the church, the flickering candles reignited one by one, casting a warm glow. The elderly man, no longer encumbered by his fears, opened his eyes to find the world outside was still there, the wind whistling comforting tones of remembrance, and hope pulsating within him. It's time to tell the truth, he promised himself, his voice steady and unwavering, muscles relaxed. Stepping out of the shadows, he felt ready to embrace his life anew. Each step resonated, the door to his past gently closing behind him. It was time for the healing to begin, not just for himself but for all those he had loved and lost. For in the end, love was the only light powerful enough to illuminate even the darkest corners of despair. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, he stepped into the warmth of a new day, each breath a testament to the hope and love lingering in his heart. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to ensure you catch all the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to serve the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is your moment to show your support.